Crazy House World Championship Candidates. We will be watching one of the final games of the Crazy House Candidates tournament, and today zyxon is playing against doganswer. The match has already started, and they have played a few moves here. Let's just catch up what's happening here. zyxon plays e4 and doganswer chooses a kingside fianchetto, which invites an early h4 reaction here by white. Notice that he hasn't developed his knight from g1 yet. Instead he's reinforcing the h5 square, making it easier to play h5. Black blocks, and now the knight finds another way out, possibly to g5. So here we are live. The black position is a bit cramped, but what about bishop g3 check, just to wreak a little bit of havoc in the white position? What is white supposed to do? He could go king f1, I suppose, but going in this direction invites perhaps knight takes d4, e takes d4, and then bishop takes d4. I'm not sure why black didn't choose to open the position when he had a chance. I would very much have liked to play knight takes, pawn takes, and then maybe even bishop f4 in between. Okay, so now white is sitting safely in the center here. Hi there, okay. Welcome. While he's sitting safely in the center, he can pick up a knight whenever he likes to, and the black king is much unsafer. Black doesn't have any pawns to block with. Threatening mate in 1 at the moment. And hi everybody else who's watching. Hi there, Tommy Tao. Hi there, Vladimir. So in this position I think white is dictating pretty much everything. White can choose when to pick up d4. Maybe he should simply go for a delayed long castle. At any point he could check here and maybe pick up the knight for knight at e5 check. Question is which move order to pick, I suppose. Yeah, he decides to go for this line. And do you pick up the queen or do you pick up d4? The answer is you pick up that annoying pawn at d4. So the black king is still in the center here. Pinning this knight, making sure the e4 pawn isn't hanging. Also covering some useful black squares here. And once you have e3 covered, you might consider just taking twice here on g5. And this bishop is in an awkward spot, but why did white allow black to take on e4? Maybe he simply overlooked that possibility. Just felt a little unnecessary, I'd say. Just a few seconds ago, white was in control, but now the position is very messed up. And in fact, I would be surprised if not black is better off here. Bishop on g3 is hanging, and this knight is doing a great job covering d7. The white position is just a mess right now. Black could start harassing this knight just to get the f5 square for a knight. For instance, now pawn at c5. Oh, and this is just winning the queen. White had a little trick there though, opening the e6 square, gaining some counter chances. Both players trading some mistakes here. And actually it's quite tricky now. The zyxon is so low on time. Offering the queen, but knight at f5 seems very dangerous. Where to hide the king? Can he run in this direction maybe? And simply give up the queen if black checks here. This rook is covering the e-file, but now everything comes with check. This looks very dangerous. Black's king is out in the open. Not too many good squares though for the white forces, but this move cuts off the black king from behind. So maybe pawn c4. You want to keep black king from running this way. But now black has managed to find a way back, and doganswer wins the first game. It seemed they both had chances there to finish the opponent off. Allowing the bishop g3 check was probably bad, and as you see, knight takes d4 was indeed very strong here for black. I think it's stronger than the computer realizes. So here white is in control. Even taking on f7 was unnecessary, but looks good. Looking good here. And what is the best move here? Maybe simply bishop at g5 to keep stuff under control. Oh well, somewhere around here, and it was rook h3. That was the bad move. And then it looked like white was, yeah, taking on g5 with the queen is even mate in 8. So bad for white. And did white get a last chance here? No. It was just lost. Okay, back to the match. And let's follow zyxon. What happened in the opening? So zyxon quickly trades on f3 here. Covers b5. Just to make sure you can develop your knight to c6. This is a bit passive, but maybe the knights will start moving again. If you compare this bishop, it's not very good there at a4 either. So if black takes here, black will. If white takes on e7, black will probably take with the knight swinging over to the king's side. So some pressure here on the dark squares. Maybe black can go for f5. Yep. Gain some space here on the queen, on the king's side. And now black's game does look a bit freer, I would say. That was a bit of a surprise, putting pressure on the light squares, but also giving black some targets here. Maybe queen h4. This is really gutsy. Okay, giving the h7 pawn. A knight for g6 looks very dangerous for black. And if black retreats here, maybe simply bishop g5, pinning the knight. And instead, black cuts off the communication between the bishops and creates a weakness here in the white camp. But I'm a bit skeptical about this. What about just taking? King takes here, maybe f3 just to put pressure here. White is awfully close to the black king, and if the rooks come off, it could be mate in the corner rather quickly here. I would have preferred to play f3 first, just to keep a lot of options open for white. But knight f7 is dangerous, even though you have to be careful so you don't get mated yourself. So the black pieces are closing in here on the white king. Yeah, I don't like allowing bishop at f3. That just seemed very, very strong. And what was wrong with taking here? I'm not sure. Why was that wrong? Okay. Yeah, he was threatening mate on h7. Okay, so you couldn't take the queen. All right, I missed that one. And once again, Some tactical stuff here. Knight g6. Although now it's black's turn to, he can just sacrifice here because he has knight check here and queen mate. And this isn't really threatening anything. Because if white takes here, you have knight check and queen mate. So, white has one move to make here. He can play anything quite safely here. What do you do? Maybe queen f3. Threatening mate here, and if white puts something on g2, you can simply take on g2. Oh, if white takes here, you have queen h1. Black missed the forced mate there. But is this mate anyway? Threatening knight at g3. Looking rather hopeless now. Yeah. But let's have a look at that mate zyxon missed. It was in... Actually, he missed a mate here also. But here I was thinking queen check here. Oh, knight e2 was mate also. Okay. But I was thinking this is the mate I saw. Never mind, white was losing anyway. And it's 1-1. Black is okay in this match. This time white decides to play a more modest setup, just relying on his extra space, playing h3 just to avoid any black forces to land on g4. This is a very flexible setup by white. These bishops pointing in the direction of the king. Threatening f7. Probably just f3. What is black supposed to do here? Looks lost already. Maybe just take on h7 and play h5. Looks completely hopeless for black. Something went terribly, terribly wrong. Yes, a very chess-like position here. You could simply play h5 here, open up the h5. Not much for black to do here. White has super control with his bishops here in all directions, and these powerful pawns cover the center squares. Black is just defenseless here. And zyxon still with 3 minutes left. He will not mess this up. It's just too easy to play for white. He has breached the 6th rank. So it's not possible to defend g7 from behind anymore. White creating a zombie army here with just capturing one piece after the other. Let's take on f8 and play h5. Okay, never mind. probably bishop c3. Yeah, black just resigns. 2-1 dog answer. Who played rather recklessly in the opening there. Let's see if zyxon repeats this. I thought it was doing quite well in the opening. And his idea was to play knight h5 at a later stage and claiming the dark squares here. So these knights are starting to swarm around the white king, but this hits both this knight and the pawn on c7. So black needs to give some material here. This is probably the best way. If we can strip white of the f3 pawn, you have compensation as black, I would say. Because then you can place a pawn on e4 and cut the board in half. Pawn e4 still looks interesting, I would say. Or do you spend a tempo saving the queen? Oh, he takes on g2 once again. So interesting compensation here for black. If king takes here, pawn e4, and white has difficulties defending f3. So black only has a pawn for the queen here, but tremendous compensation, I would say. 2 pawns now. He's cutting off the white forces here, saving some pawns for the squares here on the king side, hoping to take back even more material. And now a knight landing on g4 might hurt white badly at some point. Once again, a little mating trick here on h7 if black takes here, but I'm wondering if this was so wise. Black can use this as a stepping stone into the white castle. Maybe a move like pawn h4, deflecting either the bishop from h2 or the queen from f3. This is also looking tempting, pointing in both directions here. So I'm still thinking Pawn h4 might be interesting. Maybe check first. But I would have liked to place it here just to take on g3 with check. Now it takes the move longer. The idea was, of course, just to lure the bishop away and put the rook on h2. So this picks up the queen. But now maybe white can put his pieces on the board. The black attack is over. White has a slight lead in material. He's up a pawn. But since black has put so many more pieces on the board, that doesn't really matter. I wonder if you have time to pick up this knight. Because if white takes here, black takes back, white puts something on g6, maybe you can just take on... Can you take on g3 as well? It looks dangerous with all those heavies, because if black can pick up one more heavy here, it can put those magnet rooks there, just sucking out the black king. And now it looks very dangerous here. But as I'm not sure what happened in the end there. I thought black was doing so well here. Pawn e4. Black has a super position. What about my pawn h4? Was it just silly or was it good? Looks good. Oh well, let's get back to the game. And white chooses the same setup as the last time, and black does not cancel short voluntarily here. Instead he plays something active here on the queen side, putting a bit of pressure on the e4 pawn because he can play b4. Also with a pawn here covering g4 and the pawn here covering f5, black needs to find some other spot for his bishop. But now he's a bit weak here on the light squares when he abandoned this diagonal. So surely black will take on d3 and take with the queen. b7 is hanging. Still, maybe this is what black should do. Put something on d7, allow white to take there and just castle short and hope that The queen might get harassed somehow, but the queen can take a rook, so some pawns here could create a mating threat on h8. Black tries to find some tactical solution here, but I'm very skeptical about this. Yeah, simply take here. You could even take maybe on f5. Just take on f5, and then maybe, what do you do then? So do you take on g7 in between, maybe? Probably. Black looking to place his pawns here on the second rank and make one of those a queen. Black should be a bit careful about trading rooks, because rook somewhere here could hurt black badly. Now white gets a rook here in the corner. I wonder what he puts on b1 now. One interesting idea would have been to simply play king d2 there. I wonder if black can take the white rook. We'll never know. Because I was thinking rook at f8 and a lot of forced checks. Anyway, this looks very good for white anyway. So white simply threatening to take on g7. Plenty of time to figure out if taking on f8 is a forced mate. Otherwise, taking on g7 looks excellent, I would say. Or are there any tricks with rook takes, king takes, and bishop takes c2? I don't think so. You could even hide in the corner, yeah. So dog answer resigns. There was some position there which was a bit curious. Rook g1 seems a bit better here, yeah. I was wondering. What about this move? Was it just bad? I was thinking maybe this is dangerous, but apparently black is safe here. Yeah. Okay, never mind. Well, that was not a good idea. So what happened in the opening here? doganswer chooses to fianchetto his bishop and puts a halt to the black h-pawn by putting his knight on h4. The bishop is covering g5. So now one idea might be to play bishop at g5 for black. And in case of bishop at g5 by white, maybe black can play f6 and g5. So instead white forced black to put his bishop on d6. But what about bishop g5 now then? I'm wondering, was it really necessary to put the king here? Couldn't you play king d7 and then recapture with the rook? So this wins a pawn and also provides the black king with an escape square. But black only has heavies to interpose with here. So rook g8, unless you just want to play king h7. But then f7 is hanging. And obviously you take with the bishop instead. Or don't you? You have bishop f4 also. Pinning this lady. And maybe e4 just to cut off the bishop from the defense of the g6 square. f5 is another idea, also cutting off the bishop. So simply f4 here maybe, with the ideas of mating on g5 or picking up a knight for g8. Oh, that was brutal. Threatening to take on h7 and then play a heavy on h8. So is there any kind of defense? Yeah, simply mate there on h7. So it's 3-3, exciting games. doganswer is a tricky player. Yeah, rather unexpectedly. I'm thinking zyxon has missed a lot of chances in his games. So I don't really think the 3-3 result reflects the the match so far, but dog answer is tricky because I think black was doing fine there at some point in the opening. How is this? Simply taking on c5, but apparently it was banned to play bishop there. This was a strong queen sacrifice, and I was curious what happens here. Oh, you played this in between, okay. And what happens? Something like this, and this is annoying. Okay. So in this game, black quickly advances on the queen side. Very unorthodox setup for black. I wonder if you should play h4. What does black play then? Oh, this looks good as well. Forking queen and knight. And this might even be the end of the game. Because if white wins a piece here, it's just over. Nice little find by zyxon. And white can just pick up c4, pick up e5, e7, pick up e5. This is way, way, way too much material being lost. c4 is hanging as well. And white could simply take on f7 if he likes to. But now just take c4, be happy. Oh, this is so painful. Maybe check here, take on b5 with check, check on d6. Let those checks keep coming. You have a queen there, followed by a4. Also picking up a knight for c5 or b4 does indeed look very strong, and you have a4 coming any second if black finds a way to protect these squares. I'm not sure why it doesn't play a4. Looks very natural. But it doesn't matter because he's winning anyway. So it would seem as if white has found a forced mate here. For instance, king c6, you can play queen d5. And now simply take with the queen. Knight b4. b4, c5. Checkmate. 4-3 zyxon. 3 games to go. And I would be surprised if zyxon doesn't win this match. So this is a nice little twist here by White, who has avoided the trade on f3, and it goes for the kingside fianchetto. Hi there, everyone. And while they are thinking, I'm just gonna have a quick look at the table here. How many matches are remaining? zyxon is playing doganswer now, and then there's only one match to go. Doganswer versus Mariotten, and then we're finished. And we are ready to play the World Championship finals. Which of course will be a real feast. Katask challenging Yasugi 99. So we see a bit of a positional struggle here. And with the knight here on f4, White need not fear f6 because the e6 pawn is hanging. Yeah, it's the battle to avoid the last place. Well, I think sometime in December. And I heard rumors of very strong Crazy House players lining up to comment on that match. So not only will the games themselves be nice to watch, but the comments live stream will also be something else. So, who is better off here? I reckon we will see f6 at some point. So a forced sequence here. Who's benefiting from this? With one more pawn in hand, this looks like close to mate. Take here and knight check, and a pawn check here and a knight check there. Instead, black goes for the heavy mate in the corner. But where can he find a rook or a queen? Well, obviously he can find a rook there. And if White moves his rook, black can probably take on f2. So threatening a rook at h1 followed by bishop g2 and knight at h3 check. Nice trick there by, well, and White missed that mate. Maybe there was no way to defend against it, I'm not sure. Doganswer playing some sort of fianchetto line again. And if you compare this to the d4, d5 fianchetto lines, I don't think this is as good. Yeah, maybe this is a perfect timing by white, pushing the e pawn. G4 was covered. And now this knight is trapped. Looks a bit materialistic, but I don't see why this shouldn't be good for white. So winning a piece is always nice. Maybe you try to trade the dark square bishop also. Oh, he wants to pick up some pawns here for the dark squares. Looks like a strong idea. That's what is black supposed to do now. If he retreats, white will take here and play pawn g7. White has managed to win a piece, which is always nice. And I think black blundered that one. Maybe bishop d2 just to, okay, even offering queen trade. White has very nice coordination here. Chasing the black queen, putting pieces on the board left and right. Just be a little careful about castling long because the a pawn is hanging. So this is probably the right way to go. This is not a real queen. It's a promoted pawn, which has the properties of a queen at the moment. And look out for queen at h8, trapping this rook. The queen will be replaced by another. So this gives black the opportunity to put a rook here, but maybe queen check here, rook interposing, picking up the f7 pawn. I don't see. I don't quite see how black can survive this. Very annoying move here by white, just threatening queen at c7. So where is the killer blow here? Black needed to go out on the board because of king e8 queen d8. And one way to go here would be simply to check and pick up h3. Is there something better, maybe? So this threatens queen takes e7, and if black takes, white will take, forcing, well, it's mate actually, so black cannot take. Looks like a very strong move here. And mate on e5. So zyxon does win this match. He's in the lead 6-3, and I hadn't noticed, but these players hadn't played before, which is quite unusual. So congratulations to zyxon, who will, let's see, sorry, will he take 5th or even 4th place? zyxon at 56.5. No, he will take 5th place, which is very impressive, behind the 2700 rated guys. Once again, we see a piece sacrifice by black on g2, taking control of that e4 square, gaining a lot of compensation. Black doesn't mind losing the queen here. The question is, do you put a pawn on f3 here, luring the king even further out on the board, or is that too much? Because if you can play pawn f3, king takes, and then pick up d8, allowing white to take even on e4, that's looking very nasty. So white should just take this. It's either taking here, hoping to survive, or just resigning, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe something on d3 here. Pawn d3. Black only has bishops. Very interesting position. So that makes sense. Black would love to take on h3, covering all the retreat squares for the white king. So I'm wondering if maybe black has sacrificed too much here. So why not run in this direction? It's not like white has a choice here. And actually this is sort of dangerous. Hi there, Zarza. And as Brothfish points out here, Firefly has more than 50% which is, I think that was his goal in the tournament, and quite an achievement. You mean in this position, taking on e4. I'm thinking bishop g6, something here, take. Knight e7 check. You could pick up d5 with an ongoing attack. Very, very tricky. Hard to say what's best here. Oh, we're not at the position. Here's the position. So this makes more sense, I say. Yeah, definitely bishop g6 covering f7 and threatening the white king. You can then pick up f2 with a discovered check maybe. And white decides it's too dangerous to take on e4. Although taking on e4 at this point might have been, could have been better maybe. Such a strong initiative for black. I think it's legal. So do you go here and take on d7? Now it's definitely illegal to castle for black. And if black takes here, you have knight c6 check with a heavy meeting either on d8 or b8 or d8. So that is looking strong here because black only has a queen to interpose with. And if king e7, you can simply pick up the rook. And once white gets out of the checks, it's black who's getting mated here. So let's see if doganswer finds the mate. No, we forgot to check. What a way to go. Uh-oh. So, a case of crazy house blindness there in the end, unfortunately for white, who blundered. Yeah. I'm thinking there are several ways to checkmate here. And one way was to play knight at d7. Something like this. And just pick up material. Bishop e3. Knight here. Well, that would have been cute. Instead, Firefly wins 7-3, I think, didn't he? So congratulations to Firefly, who takes the 5th place in this tournament. Grattis Morten. I don't know when Mariotten and doganswer are playing their final game, but if they play it sometime when I'm awake and not at work, I might cover it. And until then, have a nice time. I will try to find someone to raid. It's always nice to raid someone. Let me see how to do this. Hikaru, we are coming for you. So, take care and bye-bye.